The signal. The celestial harmony drifted through the nebula, its crystalline hull shimmering with the reflected light of 1,000 distant stars. On the command deck, Captain Lyra watched the sensor data flow across the translucent displays, her iridescent skin pulsing with a soft blue glow of satisfaction. "Another successful survey, Captain," said First Officer Mirai, his slender frame nearly weightless as he glided to her side. "The Council will be pleased with our findings." Lyra nodded, her large, multifaceted eyes blinking in sequence. "The Harmony has mapped 17 new star systems in half a cycle. The Vosarian Science Academy will have plenty of data to analyze." Like all Vosarians, Lyra and her crew had evolved on a world with 1/3 of Earth's gravity. Their bodies were graceful and elongated, with fine bones and translucent skin that revealed the gentle flow of luminescent blood beneath. Their civilization had developed without major predators or natural disasters, allowing them to focus on art, science, and peaceful exploration for millennia. "Captain," called the communications specialist, Zeril, his voice musical with concern. "Long-range sensors detect multiple vessels approaching from Sector 9. Lyra frowned, her skin dimming slightly. "Identify them." Unable to comply, Zeril responded, his fingers dancing over the control surface. "They're not broadcasting identification codes, and their energy signatures don't match any known Vosarian or allied vessels. Unknown ships in this sector." Mirai's skin flickered with anxiety. "We're well beyond the regular trade routes." "Show me," Lyra ordered. The main display shifted to reveal 3 jagged ships, their hulls a mottled dark green and covered with what appeared to be weaponry. They moved with predatory purpose, quickly closing the distance to the celestial harmony. "Those are Crax vessels," whispered Ilarion, the xenobiologist, her voice tight with fear. "Raiders and slavers from the outer systems." Lyra felt her inner membrane close protectively over her eyes. The Crax were notorious throughout this arm of the galaxy. Evolved from pack hunters on a resource-poor world, they had turned to raiding and salvage operations rather than developing their own infrastructure. Their biology made them naturally aggressive, with thick exoskeletons and powerful limbs adapted for combat. "Evasive maneuvers," Lyra commanded. "Communications, send an alert to Vosarian Command." The Harmony's engines hummed as they attempted to change course, but the vessel was designed for scientific exploration, not rapid acceleration. Before they could gain significant distance, the first energy blast struck their rear shields. "Shields at 70%, reported the defense systems operator, their skin paling to nearly white. "They're using focused plasma cannons. Can we outrun them?" Lyra asked, knowing the answer before Mirai shook his head. "Our engines weren't built for combat situations, Captain. The Harmony is a research vessel." Another blast rocked the ship, sending several crew members floating upward until the artificial gravity compensated. "Shields at 40%, came the report. "Hull breach on level 3. Lyra's mind raced. Vosarians weren't equipped biologically or psychologically for combat. Their evolutionary path had given them exceptional intelligence and sensory perception, but nothing that would help in a fight against the naturally armored and aggressive Crax. The communication panel chimed, and without waiting for orders, Zeril accepted the incoming transmission. The screen filled with the face of a Crax commander, chitinous plates arranged in a fearsome visage, compound eyes glittering with predatory intelligence. "Vosarian vessel." The Crax commander's translation device rendered his clicking speech into standard galactic language. "I am Commander Vrax of the Crax Acquisition Fleet. Your ship and crew are now our property. Deactivate your engines and prepare to be boarded." Lyra stood, her full height still only reaching what would be considered small by many species standards. "This is Captain Lyra of the Vosarian science vessel Celestial Harmony. We are on a peaceful mission of exploration and carry nothing of value. By intergalactic treaty, we demand safe passage." The Crax commander's mandibles clicked in what might have been laughter. Treaties are for species strong enough to enforce them. The Vosarians are known throughout the galaxy for their weakness. Your technology, however, has value, and your crew will fetch a good price in the outer rim labor markets. The transmission cut abruptly. Seconds later, another blast struck the Harmony, this one powerful enough to send the ship spinning. "Direct hit to our main propulsion system," reported the engineering liaison. "We've lost engine control." Emergency lights bathed the command deck in a soft purple glow as the main power fluctuated. "They're launching boarding craft," Mirai said, his voice barely audible. Lyra made her decision. "Zeryl, send a general distress call on all frequencies. Include our coordinates and situation." Zeryl turned to his console, fingers trembling as he prepared the transmission. "Our targeted communication array is damaged, Captain. I can only send a general broadcast. I can't direct it specifically to Vosarian space." "Send it anyway," Lyra ordered, "to anyone who can hear." As Zeryl worked, Lyra activated the ship-wide communication system. "All personnel, this is Captain Lyra. We are under attack by Crax raiders. All non-essential crew proceed to emergency shelters. All others prepare for boarding. This is not a drill." She turned to Mirai. "Begin data protection protocols. Encrypt all research data and star charts." On the view screen, they watched as 3 smaller craft detached from the Crax ships, heading directly for their hull. "Distress signal ready," Zeryl announced. "Broadcasting now." In his haste and fear, he failed to notice that the automatic Galactic positioning system had malfunctioned. Instead of broadcasting toward nearby Vosarian or Allied space, the signal shot off in nearly the opposite direction, toward a sector classified only as unexplored territory in their navigational database. The distress call raced through space at superluminal speeds, carrying the simple message: "Vosarian research vessel Celestial Harmony under attack by Crax forces at coordinates 783 to 421,098. Boarding in progress. Any assistance appreciated. Please hurry." The signal passed through empty systems beyond the normal patrol routes of allied species. It continued into a region that most spacefaring races deliberately avoided, a region containing a yellow star with a third planet classified in the Vosarian registry as extreme hostile environment. Deadly gravity, atmospheric toxins, high radiation, aggressive apex predators, and violent indigenous species. On the Celestial Harmony, the first explosion signaled the Crax cutting through the outer hull. Security alerts blared from every deck. "They're in," Mirai whispered. Lyra stood tall, though fear made her limbs tremble. "Lock down the command deck. Prepare for the worst, and hope that someone hears our call." Little did she know that their signal was already being received by a species unlike any the Vosarians had ever encountered. A species that evolved on a world of predators, disasters, and constant competition. A species whose response would forever change the galaxy's understanding of the word dangerous. Commander Ethan Riley stood with his hands clasped behind his back, studying the holographic display at the center of the Thunderstrike's bridge. At 6'2", with broad shoulders and the compact muscle of someone who grew up in Earth's gravity, he cut an imposing figure in the standard United Earth Defense Force uniform. "Status report," he said, his voice carrying the calm authority of someone who had seen actual combat. "All systems nominal, Commander," replied Lieutenant Commander Sato from the operations station. "We're on schedule for the Outer Rim Patrol." Riley nodded. The Thunderstrike was one of humanity's newest vessels, a Raptor-class destroyer designed for extended deep space operations. Humanity had been exploring the stars for only 70 years, and most species they'd encountered had been wary of these newcomers from a high-gravity world with an evolutionary history that made them naturally resilient, adaptable, and, when necessary, formidable fighters. "Commander," called Communications Officer Chen, her hand pressed to her earpiece. "We're picking up a distress signal on an unusual frequency." Riley turned, one eyebrow raised. Their patrol sector was usually quiet, well beyond known territorial boundaries. "Source?" Unknown, sir, Chen replied, adjusting parameters on her console. It's not a human frequency, and it doesn't match any Alliance signatures in our database. Put it through, Riley ordered. The ship's speakers crackled to life. The message wasn't in any human language, but the advanced translation system processed the alien words. Vosarian research vessel Celestial Harmony under attack by Crax forces at coordinates 783 to 400 and 21098. Boarding in progress. Any assistance appreciated. Please hurry. The bridge fell silent. First contact with a new alien species wasn't unprecedented, but receiving a distress call from one was definitely unusual. Vosarian. Crax. Riley asked. Do we have any information on either species? Lieutenant Lopez, the ship's xeno-intelligence officer, quickly accessed her database. Very limited, sir. Vosarians are listed as a peaceful spacefaring race from a low-gravity world. The Crax are flagged as a hostile species known for raiding and salvage operations. And the coordinates? Riley asked, turning to navigation. Approximately 4 hours away at maximum FTL, sir, reported Navigator Wilson. Outside our normal patrol route, but well within our operational range. Riley didn't hesitate. In the decades since humans had reached the stars, they had built a reputation, sometimes as reckless, often as unpredictable, but always as a species that answered calls for help. Set course for those coordinates, maximum speed, he ordered. Alert the Dakota and the Shenzhen to join us. We're responding to this distress call. Sir, Sato said cautiously, protocol for first contact situations typically requires authorization from command. Riley's expression remained impassive. This isn't first contact, Lieutenant Commander. This is a rescue mission. Besides, by the time an authorization comes through, it may be too late for whoever sent that signal. He turned to face the bridge crew, his eyes reflecting the determination that had carried humanity from their death world to the stars. Military history has taught us that the most effective deterrent to aggression is a swift and decisive response. If these Crax are attacking innocent researchers, they need to learn that such actions have consequences. If we get there and the situation is resolved, fantastic. But I won't risk lives waiting for bureaucracy. Riley activated the ship-wide communication system. All personnel, this is Commander Riley. We have received a distress call from an unknown alien vessel under attack. We are changing course to render assistance. This is not a drill. All departments prepare for potential combat operations. First contact protocols are in effect, but this is primarily a rescue mission. Riley out. As the Thunderstrike's powerful engines engaged, accelerating the destroyer to its maximum FTL capacity, Riley returned his attention to the holographic display. 2 more human vessels, the Dakota and the Shenzhen, acknowledged his orders and changed course to join them. Combat simulations based on available data, he ordered Tactical Officer Martinez. I want to be prepared for any scenario when we arrive. Yes, sir, Martinez replied, already programming scenarios, running simulations for both ship-to-ship combat and boarding party response. Riley nodded, his mind already racing through potential scenarios. Humans had learned long ago that hope for the best but prepare for the worst was more than a saying. It was a survival strategy. And on a planet like Earth, survival strategies evolved into cultural imperatives. 4 hours to destination, announced Wilson from navigation. Let's hope we're not too late, Riley murmured, watching as the stars streaked past on the view screen. The Thunderstrike accelerated further, its powerful engines pushing it beyond recommended safety parameters. Behind it, the Dakota and Shenzhen matched pace, 3 human warships racing to answer a call from a species that had never encountered the descendants of Earth. The Crax were about to learn what happened when you called for help in a galaxy where humans could hear you. First contact. Lyra huddled with what remained of her command crew in the Emergency Operations Center, deep within the Celestial Harmony. The Crack's boarding parties had systematically taken control of the ship's primary systems, securing the engine room, life support, and most of the research laboratories. "How many crew members are unaccounted for?" she asked, her voice barely audible. Mirai consulted his portable data terminal. 17 captured, 12 still hiding throughout the ship, and the rest of us here. The Vosarians weren't built for combat, physically or psychologically. Their evolutionary path had given them exceptional intelligence and sensory abilities, but nothing that would help against the naturally armored and aggressive Cracks. The raiders moved through the ship like the predators they were, using thermal sensors to locate hiding crew members. "Any response to our distress call?" Lyra asked Zoril, who was monitoring the emergency communication system. "Nothing, Captain." His skin had paled to an unhealthy gray. "I've continued broadcasting, but we're far from regular patrol routes." A heavy thud against the sealed door made them all flinch. "They found us," whispered Ilarion, the xenobiologist. "The emergency shelter won't hold them for long." Lyra looked at her crew, scientists, explorers, and researchers who had never expected to face combat. She felt the failure of command weighing heavily upon her. "I'm sorry," she said softly. "I failed to protect you." The pounding on the door increased, accompanied by the high-pitched whine of cutting tools. The Cracks were burning through. "Dropping out of FTL in 30 seconds, announced Navigator Wilson on the bridge of the Thunderstrike. Commander Riley straightened his uniform jacket. "Battle stations. Weapons systems online. Shields at maximum." The crew responded with practiced efficiency, the product of countless drills and simulations. Humans had carried their military traditions into space, always preparing for the worst-case scenario. "Dakota and Shenzhen report ready, sir," said Communications Officer Chen. "They'll follow our lead." Riley nodded. Standard rescue formation. Dakota to provide overwatch, Shenzhen to prepare boarding teams if needed. The stars reappeared on the view screen as the 3 human vessels dropped out of FTL, immediately scanning the area. "Multiple vessels detected," reported Tactical Officer Martinez. 3 larger ships matching unknown configurations, presumably Cracks. 1 smaller vessel with significant damage to propulsion and defense systems, likely our distress caller. "Life signs?" Riley asked. "Scanning," Martins replied. "Detecting at least 2 distinct species. 1 group concentrated on the damaged vessel, another scattered throughout. Some kind of boarding action in progress." Riley's expression hardened. "Put me through to the attacking vessels." "Channel open." "Sir." Riley stood tall, shoulders back, his voice projecting command. "Attention unknown vessels. This is Commander Ethan Riley of the United Earth Defense Force vessel Thunderstrike. You are engaged in what appears to be an unprovoked attack on a civilian research vessel. Cease all hostile actions immediately and withdraw your boarding parties, or we will be forced to take action." For several long moments, there was no response. Then the communications system crackled. "Unknown vessel," came a harsh, clicking voice through the translator. "This matter does not concern you. The Vosarian ship is legitimate salvage under Crack's acquisition law. Depart immediately or face consequences." Riley smiled grimly. "I was hoping you'd say that." He turned to Martinez. "Target their weapon systems only. Disable, don't destroy. Let's show them we mean business." "Targets acquired," Martinez confirmed. "Fire." The Thunderstrike's advanced beam weapons lanced out, striking each of the 3 Cracks vessels with surgical precision. The energy beams, designed to penetrate and disrupt rather than destroy, caused cascading failures through the raiders' weapon systems. "Direct hits on all targets," Martins reported. "Their weapon systems are offline." "Now the boarding parties," Riley ordered. "Pinpoint scans of the research vessel. I want to know exactly where the Cracks boarding parties are located." Before Martinez could respond, the communication system activated again. "What manner of species are you?" demanded the Cracks commander, his translated voice vibrating with rage and something new. Uncertainty. No ship could target with such precision from that distance. Riley ignored the question. Withdraw your boarding parties immediately. This is your final warning. You have no authority in this sector. The Crack's commander snarled. The Vosarians are weak. Their technology is ours by right of strength. Riley's expression darkened. Wrong answer. He turned to the bridge crew. Boarding teams Alpha through Charlie, prepare for immediate deployment. Tactical, continue monitoring the Crack's vessels. If they attempt to power up engines or secondary weapons, disable them completely. Sir, Lopes interjected, preliminary scans indicate the Vosarians are a low-gravity species with minimal physical strength. The Cracks appear to have natural armor and significant physical advantages. Noted, Riley replied. All boarding teams, adjust equipment accordingly. Non-lethal measures were possible, but crew safety is priority one. On the main screen, they could see a dozen armored assault shuttles launching from the Shenzhen, racing toward the damaged Vosarian vessel. Sir, Chen called, we're receiving a new transmission from the research vessel. It's weak, but it appears to be coming from some kind of emergency shelter inside the ship. Put it through, Riley ordered. This is Captain Lyra of the Celestial Harmony, came a musical, tremulous voice. Unknown vessels, the Cracks have breached our command deck and are attempting to access our emergency shelter. Please, if you can hear this. The transmission cut off abruptly. Riley's jaw tightened. Boarding teams, accelerate approach. Tactical, prepare pulse disruptors for the emergency shelter area. We need to buy them time. The human assault shuttle streaked toward the Vosarian vessel, far faster than the Cracks had anticipated. Inside each, a team of 6 human soldiers prepared for combat. Descendants of a species that had evolved on a world that tried to kill them daily, whose bodies were adapted to higher gravity, greater atmospheric pressure, and the constant threat of predators. The lead shuttle attached to the Vosarian ship's hull, cutting through with specialized equipment designed for boarding operations. The second their breach was complete, the human soldiers moved in with practiced efficiency. Inside the Celestial Harmony, the Cracks raiders had just burned through the final layer of the emergency shelter door when the ship's artificial gravity suddenly fluctuated. For creatures evolved on a lower gravity world than even the Vosarians, this momentary increase was disorienting. For the human boarding teams, adjusted to Earth's pull, it was barely noticeable. The first team of human soldiers rounded the corridor, encountering 5 Cracks raiders still recovering from the gravity fluctuation. The humans moved with a speed and coordination that seemed impossible to the Cracks, creatures who had always relied on their natural advantages rather than training and discipline. Non-lethal sonic disruptors designed to target the Cracks' nervous systems fired in quick succession. 4 of the raiders dropped immediately, their exoskeletons providing no protection against the precisely calibrated weapons. The 5th managed to fire a wild shot from its plasma rifle before being incapacitated. Throughout the ship, similar scenes played out as human boarding teams systematically neutralized the Cracks' forces. Their tactics, equipment, and physical capabilities, all products of evolving on a world that the Vosarians classified as deadly, proved devastatingly effective against the raiders. In the emergency shelter, Lyra and her crew heard the sounds of combat moving closer, unfamiliar weapons fire, and the unmistakable clicking screams of Cracks warriors in distress. "What's happening?" Marai whispered. Before Lyra could respond, the partially cut door to their shelter slid open. Instead of the chidness forms of Cracks raiders, they saw something entirely new: bipedal figures in sleek combat armor, weapons held with practiced ease. One of the figures stepped forward, removing its helmet to reveal a face unlike any Lyra had seen before. The being had no exoskeleton, no chidness plates, no translucent skin, just a covering of what appeared to be soft tissue in a golden brown tone, with a growth of darker fibers on the top of its head. Its eyes were forward-facing, like a predator's, but held an unmistakable intelligence. "Captain Lyra." the being asked, its translator converting the sounds into standard galactic language. "I'm Lieutenant Hassan of the United Earth Defense Force. We received your distress call. Are you and your crew injured?" Lyra stared in shocked silence. The being, the human, stood easily in the ship's artificial gravity, which was calibrated for Vosarian comfort and would feel extremely light to an Earth native. Its movements were fluid and controlled, with none of the awkwardness other species displayed in unfamiliar gravitational conditions. "You responded to our call." She finally managed, her scientific mind already racing to categorize this new species. The human nodded, a gesture Lyra had never seen before. "Yes, Captain. The Cracks boarding parties have been neutralized and their ships disabled. Your vessel is secure. What are you?" Ilarion, the xenobiologist, blurted, her scientific curiosity momentarily overcoming her fear. The human's face arranged itself into what they would later learn was a smile. "We're humans, from Earth, and it seems we have a lot to learn about each other." 3 days later, Lyra stood in the observation lounge of the Thunderstrike, watching as repair crews, both human and Vosarian, worked to restore the Celestial Harmony's damaged systems. Beside her, Commander Riley provided a steady stream of explanation about human technology, culture, and history. "So your species evolved on a world with triple our gravity, toxic atmospheric components, high radiation, extreme temperature variations, and apex predators?" she asked, her scientific mind still struggling to comprehend. "How did you survive, much less develop spaceflight?" Riley shrugged, a human gesture she was beginning to recognize. "We adapted. Every challenge forced us to become more resilient, more innovative. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. That's a human saying." "In our galactic classification system," Mirai said, joining them with a datapad, "your Earth would be categorized as an extreme death world. Most species would consider it uninhabitable." "We call it home," Riley replied simply. Lyra's skin pulsed with blue curiosity. "And yet, despite evolving in such conditions, your species chose to answer our distress call to help strangers." Riley's expression grew thoughtful. Another human saying, "The true measure of any society can be found in how it treats those who are in danger. We've had our share of conflicts and wars, but we've learned that cooperation and mutual aid are ultimately stronger survival strategies." Lyra studied the human commander with new appreciation. The Vosarian Science Academy had always categorized worlds like Earth as too dangerous for intelligent life to develop civilization. The assumption had been that any species evolving in such harsh conditions would be too focused on survival to develop art, philosophy, or the cooperative structures necessary for technological advancement. Yet here stood living proof to the contrary. Humans who had not only survived their death world, but had developed a sophisticated society capable of remarkable achievements. And perhaps most surprisingly, they had retained a moral framework that valued assisting others. "The Galactic Council will need to reconsider many of its assumptions," she said finally. "Your species challenges everything we thought we understood about evolutionary development." Riley smiled. "We tend to have that effect. Earth has a long history of underestimated species turning out to be the most important ones." Outside the viewport, a Cracks vessel limped away under escort from the Dakota. The raiders had been given a choice: face human justice or never threaten peaceful vessels again. They had wisely chosen the latter. "Commander," Lyra said, her tone formal, "the Vosarian Confederation would be honored to establish diplomatic relations with Earth. Your assistance has saved not only our ship and crew, but potentially opened a new chapter in galactic cooperation." Riley extended his hand, another human custom she was learning. "The feeling is mutual, Captain. I think this is the beginning of a very interesting friendship." As Lyra carefully took the human's hand, marveling at the strength she could feel even through his careful grip, she couldn't help but wonder what other surprises these Deathworlders would bring to the galaxy. One thing was certain: no one would underestimate humans again. "By the way," Riley added with a grin, You might want to update your emergency communication protocols. Sending distress calls in completely random directions isn't the most efficient strategy. Perhaps not. Lyra agreed, her skin glowing with what humans would recognize as amusement. But in this case, it seems we sent our call exactly where it needed to go. The accidental signal that had reached the wrong species had, as it turned out, reached exactly the right one.